Welcome to No Question About That. This is the Tactics Show with me, Ed, and that is Dharnish over there. And we're going to talk about Burnley 2, United 2. You know, Dharnish, I've done so much fucking content this week.
Really?
There was the emergency podcast. There was the deep dive into the history of United's failed managers. All of them, except for 2, basically. That's another discussion. Me and Daniel talked about what comes next. I did a 2,800-word piece on how Ineos fucked it with all their decision-making at United, which is true, I would say. And I didn't want to do any more content because I did the match review with Wayne last night, and now here I am back doing more content because there's interesting stuff happening tactically. All right.
This guy's really sick of doing podcasts, but I'm listening to another.
Every other word is an F-bomb.
It's just one of those weeks. It is. There's in the football calendar, especially with United, there's weeks like this that exist. Blockbuster news happens, multiple stuff. It's a complex game, football, because it's a butterfly effect of, well, this is going to happen now. This is going to happen. What they're going to do next?
True.
But this is what happens in the past. Basically, shut up and we'll do the podcast.
You know what's going to happen now? I'm being like, I've got a couple of days off. I don't have to do any content. They're going to announce Ole on Friday. The world's absolutely ballistic because the culture war's already starting. Ole's such a nice guy, and it just seems to break everyone's brains. He does. Anyway, that's a different topic. We're going to talk about Darren Fletcher, the world's greatest football manager, tactical genius that he is. Well, sort of. Let's talk about what United did. Because look, it was interesting.
I think a lot of it worked. I think. Yeah. I mean, context like I was pretty frustrated after the game because what tends to happen in a football season around about this time is we kind of know what teams are going to do. Chelsea get a lot of red cards. City are not cut and dry as title challengers, so we kind of know where the season's going with United. It's a frustrating case of. They work very hard to score, and they can score because the attack is very good this season. They're the third top scorers. They really struggle to hold leads. But then at the end of the game, I was thinking, hold on. They scored from a wicked deflection. They scored from a 40-yard screamer. And we hit the post, we hit the bar. We had 2 goals cleared off the line. I thought the corner that got disallowed was quite soft. And on top of that, we scored twice, and we looked crazily more aggressive, more attacking. This was not hammering ball, play side to side, 3 at the back, and bingo, put centre back on because we need a goal, bingo. This was like very much put the kid on with 10 minutes, and hey, if you get it from 50 yards out in Thundercunt, I promise you it's going to go near the goal. That's what Darren Fletcher-ball was.
30 shots we had yesterday. 10 shots on target. 7 of those were from Benjamin Sesko. That's probably more shots than he's had in the rest of the season. And apparently Darren Fletcher was showing him videos of this is the goals you're going to score. Do this. You wonder, has anyone coached him before at all?
Anyone grabbed him before?
I know. Amazing. And 4 shots on target. It was 2.3 something XG against 2 for Burnley. It was a complete freak goal, Burnley's goal. The second one was some bad defending, I'd say. So you can be disappointed. It's a crap result at Burnley. We've dropped so many points. Burnley, Everton, West Ham, Wolves, Leeds. These are bad teams, and we've dropped all of them. And if we'd won those games, as we should have won every single one of them, we'd be comfortably in the top 4 positions. And that's the frustration. But the reality was this was a much better team. And you do wonder, if just switching to a back 4 with more attackers on the pitch. I mean, even if Dorgu is nominally a defender, right? He was in an attacking position. Just doing that, suddenly the chance creation just became easy, right? And Bruno at 10, the world's best number 10, doing number 10 things. It's funny, I said that on Twitter last night, and someone came back to me, he's like, haven't you seen anything? Where did the goal come from? He wasn't at number 10. I was like, he's in the classic number 10 position.
It's exactly what he did.
Oh my God. It's the world, black is white, up is down, left is right. I mean,
haven't you seen the game? You could tell in his head that he was trying, haven't you seen the game? But no, I mean, you make some good points. It's I said this to you off air before we started the show. Because we've played in a back 3 since Amram's arrived, teams just know straight away, we've got 3 strikers, press 3v3. When they do that, they pin him in a corner or they pin him in defence, and that leads to United kind of either doing one or two things, punting the ball up or either kicking it out of play. Mm-hmm. But this time, just by having fallen back, you could see there were spaces opening up because Burnley had trained to press a back three. And okay, fine, Ugarte, Casemiro and Fernandes were in the middle. And for Burnley, I think for quite a lot, the first half did an all right job of kind of quelling them because they went man for man. But at the very least, what it does do is it pushes one of the fullbacks up. So Dogu was playing as a winger. So the chance that came in the first half when Dogu chipped it over the keeper and they cleared it off the line, but Bruno was literally telling him, look, mate, go, make the run.
It's brilliant. That clip's like, he's like, there.
Make the run. And then he makes the run and he's like, oh. That comes from being patient at the back and pacing it through to Fernandes eventually. But I think by this point, Fernandes as well, because Burnley were doing the 3v3 thing in the middle, Fernandes was right, I'm sick of this. I'm not getting the ball. He just came deeper. And when he came deeper in the first half, he got more of the ball. So it was more easier. I liked seeing us progress the ball smoother. And on top of that as well, you could tell Fletcher told them, look, just be a little bit more aggressive and go for it. Because whilst they gave up space in the middle of the pitch and Burnley had some space, you could see Martinez or Heaven carry the ball thunderously out, like really thunderously out from their half and like just bypass three or four players, which is, it's interesting because I know a lot of people last night were saying, there you go, exactly the same stuff. The manager has gone, nothing has changed. I was like, no, mate, you should have watched the game. Lots has changed because
lots changed, yeah.
We might have been watching that same game under Amram in the same manner where we watched Man United play Wolves, in the same manner we watched them play Everton, where they barely create anything and they just looked lackluster for most of the game. But that was not the case last night at all.
Yeah, I do think the balance of midfield, it's just a little bit off with Ugarte and Casemiro. They seem very flat as a two in the 4-2-3-1. I wondered whether they'd push Casemiro a little bit further forwards. He was tired. You could kind of tell, couldn't you?
I think so.
He's played a lot of games recently and played a couple of 90 minutes recently, which is unusual for him. He came off earlier. Ugarte, trying to do Ugarte things, aggressive. You know that he's a championship standard passer. Basically, just unbelievable. This guy's gone for 50 million twice. I feel like I have a go at him all the time. I'm sure he's a lovely chap and all of that.
I do too. He's just not good. He's just
so one-dimensional. But when Kobe came on, that does give you a different dimension, right? You know, like not trying to rehash the Kobe like Menu debate or whatever, but it gives you a better balance in midfield because you have one defensive, one linker, and the creative 10, and we'll see how he develops as a player, but I do think that helps. And it'll be interesting to see where we go from here for the rest of the season, whether it's Darren Fletcher or Michael Carrick or Ole, slightly different styles of play with all of them. And we've got plenty of evidence of what these guys want to do. Not just one game from Darren, because, you know, we've seen the under-18s for quite a while. But I think all three of them will play three in the middle of the park. And what kind of balance are they looking for? And this was a little bit of evidence of how defensive or aggressive you can go through the middle of the park. And that we might actually use the middle of the park as well, which basically didn't happen with Ammo Ball.
Yes, absolutely. The other thing I want to point out as well is the changes second half. So I think that whilst they were getting some joy in the first half, from the things that we mentioned. In the second half, he moved Cunha deeper into the centre. Cunha's done this role before. A left or right 10 in Amram's system basically means you have to drop for the ball a lot, get the ball pinged into you, let a defender come onto you, drag him out of space, and then pull it back into a player that is moving behind you. But the beauty of what he did second half was we then had four players in the middle of the pitch: Ugarte, Casemiro, Fernandes, and Cunha. So what that meant is Burnley at all times, they had to do either mark all four of them, or if the ball went wide, they would go to one side and then that would free up one of them at some point. And then at another point as well in the second half, it became like a 3-1-6 again, with Casemiro the only holder and the other two like being encouraged to push up. This happened when Fernandes went off. I was watching Casemiro push up really high. I was like, okay, that's on purpose. That's aggressive. I kind of like that. Because then it meant that for both goals, this happened. find the half space in between the back five of Burnley, find the half space between the centre-back and the full-back, which is where Fernandes exactly was for his assist against Shevchkov. And it's where Ugarte exactly was for the second goal. He dropped very deep. A Burnley centre-back came running out into his own half, touched it around for Dogu around the corner. Dogu crossed for Shevchkov, lovely finish. I thought it was really, really good that he knew the adjustments to make to find the space, and then he continued as well. Even when Fernandes went off in the second half, I was like, we've dropped off and we've had to deal with the fact that they've scored again. I was just like, we're not going to score again, but at the very least, he's absolutely going for it still.
11 shots after the Burnley goal, second goal.
Yeah.
11 shots. So, I mean, they still went for it. Now, there weren't high XG chances, and they struggle a little bit with creation. That's when you take the world's best creator off, that's going to happen. What I did think was interesting was the box midfield, as you said, with Cunha, Fernandes, Ugarte, Casemiro. Ole did this a lot in his time at United. He created the box midfield to try and create overloads in midfield, because whether it was Rashford or whoever was like the left sided of the 4-2-3-1 would come inside a lot. Ten Hag did it in his first season as well, and then took Rashford and stuck him as wide as possible.
Yeah,
which completely blunted him, of course, and led to all sorts of drinking and gambling problems, one could say.
I don't think it was just that, but yeah.
Not just that. I don't know whether there was the womanizing as well, but, the triumph of vices.
I had no idea what Rashford
I'm trying to go straight, honest, guys.
I know what you're
But I do think that's interesting, because in the it's always a chess game in the Premier League, isn't it? Everyone's trying to work out who's got the other team's weaknesses, and how do you overcome their strengths and exploit their problems. And everyone finds that out really quickly, because they've all got 30 analysts who are really good at their jobs and will pick apart your weaknesses straight away, right? And the amazing thing was that Amorim couldn't do this in 14 months at United, right?
On so many occasions,
his obvious weaknesses. And it took 12 months for him to start trying to tinker with it. So we may well see this quite a bit. Michael Carrick's, I don't know whether you've seen much of Middlesbrough, slightly different. But Ole Ball and Darren Fletcher trying to create those overloads all the time. And it was that dynamic between Cunha and Fernandes is interesting, because they are different. Cunha likes to carry the ball. Fernandes will find angles all the time. And so they are very different at number 10. Fernandes, I think, naturally is going to create more chances, because he's the world's best chance creator, Of course he's going to do that. But Cunha, very important in breaking the lines, and because it just disrupts the opposition's tactics completely when you have a player like that who can carry.
I think it's important that they both played and they both worked off of each other, because there's sometimes there can be a problem with both players playing in a similar position where they take each other's space, how they run into each other, or they're not working synergy wise. But it felt to me as if one can drop deep and carry the ball, whilst that is happening, and you're taking two defenders with you, I can go find some space over there. Because you make a very good point that they play in very similar positions, but they're two very different things. Fernandes, like you said, he's a very much pick the pockets player, find a needle through, like, what's the phrase? What is it? Thread through a needle? Is that right?
Yeah, through the eye of a needle.
Sorry. Should really know that. Through the eye of a needle passes. Cunha very much likes to take men on, carry the ball, and is more of a dribbler. But if they can continue doing that, they can continue playing 2-10s, maybe even if it's Cunha and Fernandes advanced and higher, and continue just feeding off each other, I think they will have a very fruitful 17-odd games, and you can make a good fight for top 4. Because Fernandes deeper under Amorim, I always felt like it worked, but I always knew that his best position is closer to goal, always.
Look, he's a very good player, and the thing that moving him deeper did was expose some of his defensive weaknesses, not nearly as much as Twitter would have you believe at all, but those great creative players who create and get goals, you want as close to the goal as possible, right? It's just, I know it's very reductive, tactics 101, but I think that's true. Umir, you know him, works for the BBC.
Yeah, he's a good friend.
Yeah, okay, you know him. So
But I'd slide that in first.
Just slide it.
Make
just,
any
give a flex. Yeah. Shall I talk about some of my billionaire mates? No. Anyway, he was talking about. He said as a neutral, he's a City fan. He's not a neutral, so it must have been painful for him to talk about how good Fernandes was. But he was going on about him, and you would just want to get him close to goal because he's going to create chaos.
I agree
all of the time. I do think longer term, or for the rest of this season, we've got a kind of question mark in a 4-2-3-1 about those kind of wider areas because we've changed the squad now for Amorim, and Brandon Mbeumo, he likes to play wide, but he's not going to get chalk on his boots. His instinct is get the ball and drive inside. Cunha's is to drop deep into the pockets, sort of as you were talking about in Fernandez's zone. So they've got to work out how that works. So there's not naturally any width, and if you can play with four, the fullbacks aren't going to be, they have less freedom to be in those wide areas. So that is kind of a question, right?
Yeah.
How do we, especially off the left, how do we create any width? Luke Shaw's going to have to stay fit. And if he doesn't, I guess Dorgu's going to be a left back, and we'll see whether he can do that because he's never done it at United.
He's been flourishing more as a winger recently as well. But then there's also, I don't know, it's not straightforward to play a 4-2-3-1, even though it might look nice on paper, because I'm also thinking, all right, Amad Diallo in as a fullback, but without being encouraged to, you can't always push a fullback on. And if we always push a fullback on and we play with six up front, that's going to leave a lot of susceptibility for transitions. It might look nicer on paper, but I think that this is why as well. Whilst last night looked like a 4-2-3-1, sometimes it was still a three at the back, just because they were all still used to it. So there's some things to iron out there, and there's some things to see, but it is just good to see changes now and changes implemented, and then also contemplate that we're going to see more tactical changes in the future, because I feel like it's been a little bit drained, not to have an agenda, because somebody called me an agenda merchant last night. Like, bro,
that's brilliant.
Bro, I don't have time for this. Well, what is an agenda merchant? But anyway, it is just nice to watch these games and think, okay, we're going to actually have some tactical adjustments and some tweaks. And we're going to have academy prospects come off the bench to just go, mate, just hit it and see what happens.
Mm. Yeah, there's a little bit of imbalance, isn't there, with Mbeumo, Amad, and potentially Shea Lacey, after he, as you said, thunder cunted a couple from 30 yards last night. All who like to play in the same position. And in fact, if Dorgu plays in a forward position, I know he played down the left yesterday. I mean, he basically played like a wing back, didn't he? If you look at his average position, you'd say he's a wing back. But he's been better off the right, I guess, in a couple of games if he's going to play further forward. So there's a question about balance there and how you make sure you're not too one-dimensional, always looking for that side of the pitch. That'll be interesting to see how we managed to do that. Yesterday, Fletcher did it by playing Dorgu on the left and Cunha on the right to start with. I know it changed in the second half. Like making sure we're not too predictable. That's one of the things with Amorim. It was just very, very predictable. And we talked about it every week, basically.
And then some, yeah. So what does this look like going forward then? Darren Fletcher is going to be in charge for the Brighton game. Seems like they haven't made a decision yet on who's going to be the interim. We're not going to get the power couple of Carrick and Ollie together, or maybe we will. Wouldn't that be good? I'd love it. Love it. It's funny, the internet tells me that they'd all rather have Carrick, and like, why? Because they're broken about what Ollie achieved, and it's amazing how it's fucked with everyone's brains. And, like that last 2 months where it all went to shit, that's rammed in and we forget the good stuff, And maybe we should talk about him because it seems like it's most likely because Carrick rightly so, wants a full-time manager position. What are we going to get? Can he do Ollie ball with his team? Because the best parts of Ollie ball were transitional. Yes.
He tried to morph it into a possession-heavy team, and then he got Ronaldo as a statue up front, and it just didn't work, did it? So, can he do Ollie ball with this squad?
Can Carrick do Ollie ball or can Ole do Ollie ball?
Can Ollie do Ollie ball? Carrick ball is slightly different. I think it's not so...
I think Carrick ball, when we saw Carrick ball under Man United, my impression of it was more pragmatic. Yeah. But it was more pragmatic because he was he was dealing with the fact that, okay, we've got Ronaldo in the team. I have to play him, but we have to play in a certain way where not 5 of us are pushed up front, and then we also just don't lose our attacking style of play with him. Carrick ball was very much, I remember the game against Villarreal, Arsenal, it was very much a little bit mid-block, sit off, and then break, and then hit teams on the transition. But I think that was more because of the games that he had. I think he managed Villarreal, Chelsea, and Arsenal. So maybe we didn't really get to see him in terms of a breadth of a game.
But I think that was true at Middlesbrough as well. He wasn't super aggressive. I mean, he never had a brilliant squad at Middlesbrough. I mean, he ended up getting fired because they're desperate to get. I mean, it's been Middlesbrough for 25 years, right? They've been desperate to get into the back into the Premier League. They failed a couple of times in the playoffs and never quite have the money. The owner there, Steve Gibson, has been blowing his fortune on Middlesbrough for the best part of 3 decades now, and so. I don't know whether it was a reflection on Carrick, really, that he couldn't just get that squad over the line. No one has.
Multiple haven't. I think one time they've been promoted. But in terms of whether Ole can do volleyball with this squad, there is a similar amount of depth that he had. He had the man who we will not name, Pogba, Fernandes, Rashford, Cavani, Martial. And now he's got Mbeumo, Šeško, Cunha, Fernandes, Diallo, Dogu, and then you can add in Shea Lacey. So it's very much, he's got similar amount of depth. I'd say the problem that he found, and this was the problem that he had in the Europa League final, he struggled to break down low blocks. I don't know if you remember that.
No, that's very true, yeah.
That became quite a big sticking point when he was manager last time. I remember him finding some solutions to that because of the depth that he did possess. So I think he converted Paul Pogba to left wing at one point, sort of later in the 2021 season. Mm-hmm. We signed Edison Cavani, which basically meant that he could play Martial and Greenwood wide or Rashford wide, and then Cavani through the centre. No, he could do the same thing with Šeško. He could do the same thing, put Šeško in the middle as like not a big hold-up striker, but as more of a striker that is your focal point in the middle, and then you have players playing off him. There is a lot of similarities, I feel, to the attack that he has today, if he was manager, and the attack that he had back then. It's just, it did kind of get a little bit messed up with the Ronaldo situation, the Ronaldo signing. Also, I want to mention, they keep talking about, why are you going back to the thing that failed? How many games did he lose when he failed? Wasn't it like it was 5 in 6 or something?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the last 7 games that was a disaster. Yeah,
that same record has probably happened multiple times, different variations of times under Amrim and Ten Hag.
Yeah, I hate this kind of construction of argument, but I'm going to do it anyway. I hate this, because it's a straw man. But the same people who are defending Amrim's record and the performances are like, I hate Ole, I can't stand him coming in. And I've seen quite a few people on Twitter, admittedly, it's not the real world, do this. And I think we can remember the good bits of volleyball. Did he construct the world's best side? No, but he did a 2nd and a 3rd place in the Europa League final with McFred in midfield. And
yeah,
and true, he struggled to get Pogba to really sustain his creative brilliance. Everyone did really with Pogba, and Pogba was injured a lot. He had later he had to deal with the Ronaldo issue, and the guy who had to have everything around him, and it became much less dynamic as a result. Scored a lot of goals, Ronaldo, because he's a brilliant finisher, but it made the team more static and predictable. So I think you can explain away some things. I hate this kind of binary construction of, if you're not the best in the world at the thing, you're trash.
Yeah,
and because it gets you attention. Is he the world's most innovative coach? Probably not, but he's a lot better than people give him credit for. Even at Besiktas, he took a team that was failing badly, and he got them getting results again. And he got fired because they lost a qualifier for the Europa League, basically. And they had to have a fall guy. And I guess people have forgotten him a little bit because he took a lot of time out of the game, did some work for UEFA and stuff, and so I don't think it will be the disaster everyone thinks it will be. He's just got to make sure that the thing that happened last time, which is we were known for transitional football and struggled with a low block if they didn't give us the ball, doesn't happen again. He's got other answers. But bloody hell, if you can't get something out of Ahmad, Mbumo, Sesko, Cunha, and Fernandez as an attacking group, and to be able to break down low blocks, then you've got a problem. And that's exactly what Amorim had. We had a problem creating good chances.
I would maybe even entertain the prospect of just sticking with Fletcher on last night. I know there was one game, but I'll say it again, like Amorim struggles to create against those teams pretty frequently. I don't know. Fletcher, he knows the club inside out. He's been there a while. He was very, very high up when Ten Hag was there. He was, I think, a coach under Amorim.
He was technical director, then he became coach.
He was technical director.
Under 18s. Yeah, I don't know whether he would, I don't know him. Andy Misson is apparently good friends with him. Maybe he'd have a better insight on
he does bang on about.
I haven't listened to it today yet, but whether he wants to, because he wanted, the reason why that the technical director job was probably a step too early. He hadn't done that before. Maybe he doesn't want the pressure. I don't know. Maybe he wants to develop more first because, he's going on a career path. He's still quite young in terms of his coaching journey. He's trying to learn. And under 18 is very different. You're not really there to win games necessarily. You're there to help players develop. You play them sometimes out of position deliberately to help them learn a new role and to become more rounded. It'll be interesting with Fernandez. Actually, this is a slightly different point, but the fact that he spent basically a year in central midfield, will that give him a more rounded game when he is back at 10? I would suggest it probably will, right? Not all hero ball. And so it's like for Fletcher, it's a kind of decision if they offered him the interim position about whether he wants to do that, because he's doing a very good job with the under 18s, and maybe that's a better pathway for him right now, and Ole has a lot of experience now. 3 years at Mulder, 3 years with United, a year with Besiktas, at the time at Cardiff, he's plenty of experience, safe pair of hands, 4-6 months. And I think the takes that I found the weirdest and the most hilarious are, and I literally have heard this, sorry, going to construct a straw man again. What if he's really successful and they give him a contract? I just like, oh no, what if he wins 18 games in a row? What a disaster that'll be.
I mean, there's a lot of good. Look, if you go back to Ole's reign, there's a lot of good. The questions that I remember of him were not the same ones that I asked of Amorim and Ten Hag. Like the standards he was held to are the standards that you're meant to be held to at Man United. It was very much. I remember there was complaints where I think we hit 4 semi-finals or something, FA Cup, Carabao, Europa, and I'm forgetting one more. But they were like, oh, he's the naily man and stuff like that. But at least he was getting us there. And second in Man United matches it's the joint highest that anybody has finished.
When City are relegated and all their titles stripped from them, he'll have a Premier League title. And then people can fuck off with that accusation about he doesn't win trophies. I mean, it's true, right? The standard should be league, cup titles, Premier League champions. Of course, that's the standards we want. I do find it a little odd, though, that we'll hold him to that standard and yet Amorim
and not the last two.
It is odd, right? How we'll construct it that way. Anyway, I think the club are going to be they'll learn from that, right? They're not going to rush into a 5-year contract. If he wins a bunch of games, he'll probably have a termination date. He'll do the 6 months. They're going to find the one that they really want if they can get that person. But if you want the best manager going forward, you need as many good results now to get into the Champions League, to have the money and the pot of money for the next guy to construct the kind of squad that he wants and the prestige and all of that, right? It's just important. And if you want immediate results, probably Ole is going to do the best thing because I'm sure, has been studying United by the week. He lives locally. He will know what the weaknesses are. So I see him as a safe pair of hands. I don't see a lot of short-term risk with it. I see way more short-term risk than if you got a big name right now. Like if you appointed Xavi tomorrow, he's not coming in as an interim. He's coming as a full-time manager. Someone who's never managed or played in the Premier League. That's a much higher risk. He may be a good coach. Who knows? Did all right with Barcelona in very difficult circumstances.
He was very good at Barcelona. He was very, very good at Barcelona.
But you'd have to, and I know he probably isn't getting the job because they'd appoint him today if they were going to do that. Yeah, but a whole bunch of risks in terms of the style of football, learning the country, learning the place. Safe pair of hands with Ole if he gets it. Same with Carrick. slightly different style of football, and we'll go for whoever we want long term. And fingers crossed it's the right one, because I said at the top of the show, Ineos have fucked every decision they've had to make so far. The big ones: Ten Hag renewal, Ashworth hire and fire, Amorim hire and fire. They all turned out to be disastrously wrong. And the next guy, you want to appoint someone who can work with this squad. Imagine you've got 2 or 3 new players in midfield in the summer. What can you do with that? And you should be able to do a lot. There's a lot of talent in this squad.
It's a good squad. It's, I'll say it again, 3rd highest goal scorers in the league. I think we're still top for set piece again. Ole goals as well. There's plenty to work with. Just some things to iron out.
We haven't got a set piece coach now because they fired Bruno as well.
Bruno was trying to take him for a coffee late night, trying to get all the goss. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah. What, he's like 27 years old, the big guy. I forget his name. Wasn't he also called Fernandez? Carlos Fernandez
is a set piece coach. The big dude, I know who you're talking about. I don't know his name though.
Yeah.
The big dude. Keep it as the big dude.
The big dude. Yeah. Maybe we can get Andreas Georgsen back, the guy that we hired for Ten Hag and then fired him as well.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Hired a whole team of new coaches that one summer, as well as £200 million worth of players.
Forget that. It was probably too much change too quick.
What a chaotic couple of years it's been, really, seriously. The grown-ups in the room need to make a really good decision now. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
All right, we'll leave it there. It was fun last night. I know it's frustrating that we didn't win, but I thought there was a lot of good stuff, given it was I was going to say one-off, but one of 2 probably for Darren Fletcher. We need a win on Sunday for Brighton, who are not having a great season, to be fair. They've just re-signed Pascal Gross from Borussia Dortmund to bolster their midfield a little bit. Brighton, press baiting. Hate that. I'm like just launching to break their kneecaps. Yeah.
No. You don't like the word press baiting?
No, I hate the press baiting. It's like the Zerbi ball. It's as boring as it can get.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. They've got a lot of tricky forwards. They've always had tricky forwards.
They've always had, Matoma's
wingers.
Got a very good goal the other night. Yeah.
Lots of good strikers, really good players. Our centre-backs don't really have that much pace.
Yeah.
Bar maybe 1 or 2. Heaven's quick. Euro's quick,
very quick enough, yeah.
But in recent games, Euro looks like he's catching up a lot to the striker, so I would just watch out for that.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks, guys. Just the 5th pod this week. Haven't done an extra yet. I'm supposed to do that as well. Patreon.com/NQAT pod if you'd like to get our extra show. I'll try and squeeze one in this week. NQATpod.substack if you want to get some writing. Dharnish is out there doing his tactical pieces for how many outlets now? About 17 of them.
We're trying to get 100. We're trying to hit 100 this month.
Pouring himself out to any media outlet that will take him.
I got to make a paycheck, man. I got to make some money.
Hey, got to feed the kids. All right, kids who are listening or watching, thank you very much. And we'll see you next time.